You're supposed to say action, right? So, last time, if I remember correctly, we discussed the various roles that you get in an effective team. You get the role of explorer, promoter, of accessor, developer, of truster, right? We covered this last time, correct? All right, so let's see what else we got to finish this chapter. I think we did this anyway. When you design a work or a work team, you need to give the team autonomy. Autonomy is the same as independence. You will have to let them do what they want to do. In other words, you transfer the control and independence part in the decision making into the team, okay? So a team is effective when they can implement their own decisions. Well, if they can make decisions in the first place. Well, if they're not going to be making any decisions, then you don't need a team, okay? The team will do some work and will make some decisions. Number two, you want from a team a variety of skills. So you want them to complement each other. You don't want everyone having exactly the same skills, okay? For example, if you have a team with IT to develop an application, you want someone to have a web design skills. Another one will have a web programming skills. Another one will have a graphics design skills. Another one maybe web application skills. Yet another one will have probably database skills, so that the web page communicates with the application and the application communicates with the database. So you want a variety of skills which they complement each other. They add and they build each other. Next one is completing a whole and identifiable task. You want to give them a task which is a complete assignment. You don't want to give them only half a job, okay? You want to give them a full job. And you want to give them something which will identify what the job is, what they are supposed to accomplish. So that you also want to see that, okay, this is your job and they understand the job. And here's the second part. They understand what makes the job done, okay? So they know what is expected from them and they know what makes the job completed. I gave you the example with the IT guys. The job is completed. We're having a fully functional website. The website works and everything's correct and everything's okay and everything works as expected. And then you need to identify what's the impact or what's the effect. Impact means effect. What is the effect of the project on others, on other departments, on other people, on other whoever that might be. In other words, what's the effect of this business? All right, so we got the design, okay. So, conflict, all right. From time to time, you will need and you will have a conflict. All right, that's part of this stuff I'll cover. So, we get to team processes. I think we covered last time team processes, yes? A little bit or no? All right, team processes. So, what is a team process? Number one, and I already explained a little while ago, you need a common purpose. Whatever it is, it's a common purpose. The common purpose for you here, you're not really a team now, you're just a group, okay, is learning and education. Now, when you have an exam, During the quiz, you are two people paired together as a team, okay? And as a team means that whatever one gets, the other person gets. You get the same grade. You add to each other's effort, okay? So, when you're on the exam, you work as a team. Moreover, we've developed the team principle, which happened during the exam last time, that if one of the person gets sick, okay, or had some accident or some other problem, the other team member remains on the team and performs for the one missing from the team, okay? So that's part of the team. So even if he was not there, he still gets the credit for the team, and that's a major difference from a group. But the main idea is there is a common purpose, and the common purpose applies to groups as well as teams. Next one, you got specific team goals. Applies to groups as well as teams. You need a particular goal. Your goal here is learning basic management concepts and how to apply them within your field of tourism or whatever that might be, the hospitality industry. So you have specific team goals. I gave last time an example of a, let's say, swimming team, a swimming team. The goal may be winning the swimming championship, okay? For a web design team, the goal is to develop a fully functional website which is pleasing to the user, pleasing to the customer, okay? So they actually like it and they actually use it. Next one is team efficacy. I think last time I covered a little bit from, covered and I skipped the team efficacy and what is efficacious. So this is, again, this is very similar to efficiency, but it's not, okay? And this is similar to effectiveness. And I don't want to get into the detail of exactly what is efficacy. I'll just skip that one. The more important part for any effective team is to manage conflict. In any team, you always get some forms of conflict. Whether the conflict is over power, whether the conflict is over right and wrong, whether the conflict is over doing this or over doing that. No matter what, as long as you have a group of people, you will have conflict. And one of the most important things in an effective team is to manage somehow conflict. There is a way to manage conflict. So this is very critical part. Okay. And last one is minimum social loafing. As I explained last time, social loafing is the same as free riding. People who try to use the group and the team to benefit from the team without contributing enough. Example will be a good student pairing with a bad student, okay, or actually the bad student pairing up with a good student, and the bad student doesn't study, doesn't prepare, doesn't do anything. He just pairs with the good student, and the good student writes the whole exam, and then the bad student gets the same grade, the same points, okay? Well, that's an example of free riding. That's an example of social loafing. It's when someone is not contributing enough to the team or to the group relative to the benefits. Social loafing is usually associated with lazy. That's the lazy guy who doesn't want to work hard and contribute to the team. So you need to have a way to control free riding, you need to have a way to minimize it if you're going to have effective team. So if you have an effective team, you have to have a way to minimize. Otherwise, too many people will be eager to do free riding and the team is not really effective. Alright, let's see what else we have. Shaping team behavior. Let's see what we have over here. Alright. So, shaping team behavior, number one is selecting the team or team selection. That's on page 284. It's just an empty slide, okay? So, number one, you need a proper team member selection, okay? That's very important. Within the selection, you need to see that they have good, proper, adequate skills, and as I explained in the previous slide, the skills complement each other. Alright, so that's the first part. And the second part is within the selection of the team to make sure that most of the important roles are filled with specific people. So when you got 10 people, you will have certain roles to be filled. You know who fills which role within the team, okay? So that's the membership selection. And number two is training. Sometimes team members are good enough, they don't need any training at all. But that's not always the case in the real world. This is usually the case for highly skilled, professional experts. For example, you have surgery team. This is going to be 3, 4, maybe 5 doctors, okay, who will be performing a complex surgery, okay? They will have 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years of surgical experience, okay? And you will also have 5 or 8 supporting nurses or assistant surgeons, okay? You will have anesthesiologists. You will have a number of other people on the surgical team of 10 or 15 people, okay? In this case, you probably don't need training. These people are already well trained. These people already know what they're doing, okay? So, if you have this type of very complicated surgery, you say, okay, we need a neurosurgeon, we need a cardiosurgeon, we need whatever, I don't know, pulmonary surgeon, okay? And each person is a top expert, they know what they're doing, they don't need any training. All you gotta do is tell them what's the problem of the patient and what type of surgery they need to do, okay? But that's not always the case, okay? For example, if me and my Bulgarian colleague share finance course, we become a team in finance, we don't need any training about the course. All we need to do is, I cover these chapters, and have this on the exam, and you cover these chapters on that exam, and the final exam will include this part from my section and this part from your section. So we just need to divide the work. We don't need training. But in low-skilled jobs, you sometimes need training. When you are introducing new people to the team who are not well qualified, they need a little bit of training, okay? So sometimes you need training, and that's related to low skills. And here's the key word: inexperienced people with little experience. Okay. And finally, to shape behavior, you need to have proper rewards, or we call it a proper reward system. You need somehow to be able to reward team members who are working harder, more and better, to reward them more or higher, to give them a higher compensation, and to reward less, or better, to provide penalties to those who don't work very hard, who don't contribute enough. So, let me repeat the three ways to shape team behavior. First way is through selection. Second way is training. And the third way is through rewards and punishments. Okay? So, this completes section number 3. Okay. Here's the one. Rewards. Okay, they have a little slide here to, give them reward and recognition of whatever. Okay. So, you need to have some form of a reward and punishment. Okay, they can't work for nothing. Okay, now it doesn't mean that you reward them with money. Money is not necessary. Okay, it could be a nicer, better office. It could be a better reputation in the company. Okay, usually when you have a big meeting, praising these people, say, hey, these have done outstanding work, whatever they did, they improved, whatever. So all of this is very important because not everybody works only for money, okay? Not always they work for money. Now in my own case here, I don't work exactly for money, okay? I don't need the money, and the money isn't good enough anyway, okay? We work for other things beyond money. Oh, all right, so we finish this lecture with some contemporary issues. All right, issues number 1. Wait, I have this thing. All right, so let's do some issues. First one, which I'm actually seeing, and I don't understand why they have it, is the problem with global teams, okay? So, the first contemporary issues is a global team. You will have, whatever the reality is, global teams in many, many cases. Whether it's research, sometimes two people far away from two different sides of the world will be writing a book together, or they'll be developing a website with which they attempt to, let's say, publish books and make money out of it, okay? So you will have within a corporation a team of people which will be from many different countries. So global teams, let's see if they have global teams here. Yeah, okay, global teams, that's the next section, will have their particular problems. Let's see. Within global team, the most difficult part is cultural differences and recognizing cultural differences. Let's try to provide a simple example. From 1 hour ago when we had lunch with other foreign professors. For us, for our Western culture, we think it's very important to be creative in the classroom, that teachers are creative, that teachers creatively engage the students, that teachers try. In other words, for us, creativity is very important in as many ways as possible. And creativity basically means, for everyone else, trying innovation, trying new things differently and see how new things work. Or maybe, possibly, don't work. Well, here's what other foreign expat professors say. Well, we are are really trying to do a better job by being creative, but the locals don't appreciate our efforts. They don't appreciate creativity. They don't think it's a good thing, okay? So here is a simple cultural, with some fundamental cultural difference, where you got a basic, simple conflict, okay? Where the one guy says, I'm trying to use something very new, something very innovative, something very different, and I got evaluation from 3 people, and they say I'm not a good teacher, all right? And my work is not good enough, okay? Because they don't see what they see every single day, okay? And here is the key. I'm not saying that the Western guy is right or the Eastern guy is wrong. And I'm not saying the opposite. I'm not saying one is right, the other one is wrong. All I'm saying is there's a basic fact. It's a simple fact that there is a difference of culture. There is a difference in valuation. From there, you get a difference of appreciation, and the result is a fundamental conflict, okay? So I'm not trying to say, oh, it is their fault, or no, it is their fault. All I'm trying to observe, without blaming one or without blaming the other, that culturally they are very different. And the result is a conflict, okay? And that's causing, creating problems. And this is very difficult to manage. It's especially difficult to manage to local people who are not in Western countries and don't appreciate Western culture, Western mentality, Western civilization, all right, and Western achievements and accomplishments, okay? So, again, doesn't mean West is good, East is bad. I mean, we see Japanese have some extraordinary accomplishments on their own, okay? We see that Koreans have extraordinary accomplishments, whether it's in business, whether it's in technology, right? So it doesn't mean good and bad. It just means you get some big cultural differences, and these can result in major conflict, and it's very, very, very difficult, or very different. All right, now for us in the Western world, and this is the example that we're having from last week here in this class, is we got a bunch of people. Here's the story where they were supposed to have a quiz on Wednesday, but instead they went on a travel trip, okay, somewhere, right? And then they were supposed to come on Friday, okay, for the exam, because I had a Friday exam with the other groups. Okay, sure, no problem, come on Friday, okay? Well, they started sending me messages, whatever had happened and whatnot, that they either can't or whatever, they had some other class, and I said, well, it doesn't matter to me. I made the agreement that you don't come on Wednesday because you come on Friday at 3:30, okay? They either didn't know where the room was, or they gave me the explanation, but we didn't know exactly when the exam was. So, well, first, it's published on my door. Second, you have published on my door my mobile. You text me a message, when's the exam, you know, what time, and I'll reply. Friday, 3:30, room, whatever, okay? They say, but it's our culture not to bother the professor. Say, well, this is like work, this is what we do, okay? And if it's going to be tomorrow, it's Thursday night, they say, well, but can you make us another exam? And here's the cultural difference. I say, no, of course not. I'm not going to make a special exam. They say, but you're not going to give us a chance? I said, no, I gave you one chance on Wednesday. And you choose, okay? I gave you a chance, and you choose not to use it. Then I gave you a second chance on Friday, and you chose not to come on Friday. So, it's not that I'm not giving you a chance, I gave you 2 chances, and I'm not going to give you chance number 3, okay? And then I explained to them, look, they got to understand, they got to learn discipline. Discipline is very important thing in life, okay? And they said, but some of us would fail. Say, nothing wrong with that. Again, the difference between Western culture and Eastern culture. Failure is okay. Nothing wrong with failure, okay? Failure doesn't mean you die, okay? Doesn't mean you die, okay? Means you failed the exam. You know, you're still going to have your parents, right? I like to say tomorrow morning, you're still going to be sunshine, okay? You're still going to have the electricity. Your iPad is still going to work. Your best friend is still going to love you, right? I mean, life goes on. You're going to take the course again. You're going to learn well. No big deal, okay? It's not the end of the world, right? So, but they say, they make it like it's the end of the world. And they say, well, there's one other thing. If you lost the points on the quiz, you're going to study and work harder and prepare better for the final, okay? Well, again, this is a difference between Eastern culture and Western culture. And what I see here is a lack of basic discipline. And discipline is necessary, okay? And people should have and bear the consequences of their decisions. All right? So these are some of the basic differences between culture. All right. Let's see what we have over here. All right, some contemporary issues. Well, basic disadvantages. I think this should be usually for global teams. This should be for global teams. Is sometimes you have, dislike team members, okay? For some reason, some person, may not like black people. You have a black person on the team from some other countries, and you may dislike them. It happens. It is built in culturally for all Japanese to literally hate foreigners. And Japanese don't like foreigners, okay? It is within Chinese culture that most Chinese think themselves superior and better, and they don't like foreigners. Many Thai people I see don't like foreigners. Some see that they have to work with foreigners, okay? And you have a lot of, let's say, European culture. Germans, they don't always like foreigners. They think Germans are better. They are superior. Same thing with British. British think, oh no, we're so much this and that and all the other things, okay? So you have many different cultures which think they are better and they don't like the foreigners, don't want to work with them, okay? Yeah, when I was teaching in Taiwan, professors, especially foreign professors, they didn't like us, they didn't want us. Well, why were we there? And the answer is, because the big boss up there, like the president of the university, decided that it was a good thing and that they should have it, okay? And all the others underneath didn't like it, okay? And all the others underneath, they say, look guys, we don't want you, we don't need you, okay? And you don't have to be here. And if you don't like it here, you leave, okay? So this is part of disliking team members in the sense of disliking foreigners. And you have to understand that most of the times, most cultures dislike foreigners. It is within most cultures. It is human to like your own and to dislike the different ones. All right, another one. There is always a general mistrust. Can you trust the Chinese for whatever he is going to do? Again, I'm not saying Chinese are bad, but can you just trust them? Well, what about this? for all Western people in the Arab world, they will tell you one thing: you can't trust Arabs. Arabs will always screw you on the first possible chance, okay? You don't trust these people, okay? Now, it doesn't mean I'm saying that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that all of them are like that. But that's what Western people think. Again, and we're coming back to the previous chapter. The previous chapter is perception. This is the perception. Doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's right. But that's the perception. And you can't really trust them. So within international teams, mistrust is very common problem. You just don't trust these people, okay? Number 3 is stereotype. I just gave you one stereotype of Western people for Arabs. One stereotype is that you can't trust these people. These people are not trustworthy. Training, right? Is training going good, right? So, next one. You always get, especially between foreigners, especially with different native languages, you got communication problems, okay? Most of them not communicating in their own native language, and you always get communication problems, okay? One person tried to say one thing, another person interpreted something else, something was written, and suddenly you got communication problem. Very, very common in global, international teams, especially when you don't have native speakers. Now, you will have little problem between a British person and Australian. Why? Language is the same, the culture is remarkably similar, okay, so I have little cultural differences, I have little, practically no language differences, so you're not going to get much communication problem here. But try to see, let's say, an Arab person and a Chinese person, and they try to communicate in English, and then it could get really interesting if both of them are not very fluent in English language, okay? Well, yeah, you get this here with Chinese tourists where, let's say, a Thai person does not know good Chinese or any Chinese at all, okay? And try to talk with the Chinese in English, and the Chinese doesn't have a good English either, and sometimes it's, you know, it's a little funny to watch Chinese trying to talk with a local, well, here, right? And you got communication problems in general. And then you got stress and tension. That's obvious, doesn't always happen, but you know, you don't know what to do, what happens, and whatever, those kind of things. All right. Okay, well, what about benefits? That's very obvious. You got a greater diversity of ideas. Here is one great idea. We are here recording on video. Now you get to see something new. Now you get to see that maybe for many other courses you can go on the internet and find stuff that you can learn and watch on video. So you got better ideas, you got different ideas, you got a variety or diversity of ideas. One of the best benefits is limited groupthink. From last time, let me repeat, groupthink is when a lot of people with similar culture, background, and experience get together and they all get to think the same, usually because they're not really thinking, because they don't think critically, because they don't think for themselves, they just think what everyone else is thinking. So everyone is thinking the same thing, okay? And if everyone, that's groupthink. Everyone is thinking the same thing. And here's the thing. When everyone is thinking the same thing, then probably no one is thinking, okay? And that's very common problem within groups. Now, with an international team, this is not likely to happen. It's not easy to get, Chinese, Japanese, and Arab, European, and American to get into a group thing, okay? That's not likely to happen. So, foreigners can act as a check on thinking. So, foreigners say, that's not good, that's not a good idea, So they can provide part of the variety of ideas means that they can destroy groupthink more easily. Otherwise, people will easily fall into the groupthink and they'll just think on their own, okay? Next one, increased attention on understanding others' ideas and perspectives, okay? So, for you, one of the great benefits of having an international education is not that I'm teaching better, that you're more likely to understand a little bit out of Western culture, out of European culture, as I come from originally Europe, out of American culture. I've been trained and educated in the US, okay? And I've been for a few, 3-4 years now in Asia. So you get to see, that's the main benefit of working with a foreigner. You get to see different thinking, different mentality, different behavior, okay? It's not just about management, or in the other class, it's not just about debit and credit. It's about how I think. For example, in the other class, they will get a good lesson, again, of Western culture. I see how they cheated on the exam, okay, and how they did. So I'm going to give all of them 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0, okay? Now, part of Western culture say, well, for these kids, what I'll do is I'll give them in this case, a second chance, okay? I'm going to give them another exam to retake it if they want to, okay? But the idea is that they say, okay, this is how he thinks, how I analyze. Now, they think that maybe they'll think that I'm evil or that I don't like them, but the reality is I want to teach them a little bit of discipline and give them a basic lesson of what life is all about, okay? And unfortunately that's not real life, but that's the way we go here. The way we go here, if you just copy the answer from somewhere, you're going to get in trouble, and they need to understand that they are in trouble. And the best way to do it is give them a pure 0 for that one, all right? So these are some of the benefits with working with, again, foreigners, meaning with different cultures, working in an international team. Let's see what else we have to finish and get a break. Team structure, we did that. Team processes, let's see. Okay, team structure. Okay, so pen, I had a pen. Let me write this, it's not in here. So, which are the team structure related to international teams? Number 1, we did it last time, camera. We have 4 fundamental issues. Issue number 1 is conformity. I'll get the others too in a minute. Conformity. Number 2, status. Number 3 is social loafing. Let me write it as free riding. And number 4 is cohesiveness. All right, you got it? That's good enough. So, number 1, you need to understand that between different cultures, conformity is different. Western people usually are not very conformant. We don't think that conformity is very important, okay? Eastern and especially Asian societies believe that conformity is very important. And I gave last time an example. Usually Western university don't require uniform from students. Well, here in Asia, well, right, all of you here in the classroom wear uniform because you're required to. Let's try a little experiment. We got 9 people in class. How many of you will wear the uniform if it is not required? If you don't have to, are you going to wear it? No. Are you going to wear it? You're going to wear the uniform? Are you going to wear a uniform if it's not required? You're going to wear it? Yes? No. Okay, so you're going to wear it? If it's not required, you're going to still wear it? No, 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 okay. Well, of course, you're not going to wear it, right? No. So, you see, it's very simple. None of you will wear it if it's not required, okay? So, the idea here is that, well, you have to conform because you're required to. And Asian societies and Eastern culture is very, very, very oriented towards conformity, towards requirement, okay? Western culture is not that focused on conformity, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, status. Asian societies are very, very focused and oriented in status. Well, what is your social status? How high you are in the social hierarchy? You know, how big boss you are and all the other things. Western people aren't, okay? Western people care more about money. Well, do I have a good house? Do I have a good car? Right? Do I have a good big TV? Right? Do I have the latest toy? Oh, do I have a, let's say, a Corvette or a Mustang? All right, a nice car. All right, so Western people will not worry too much about status. Well, they'll actually worry more about professionalism. Am I a good professional? For example, I don't worry if I'm going to become a department chair or a dean. I don't care about that, okay? Well, here, I would guess, people worry a lot more about getting a higher position, getting more respect, and all the other things. So, status, very important in Asia, but not very important in the West. Social loafing or free riding is a typical characteristic of Westerners. Westerners, well, we can even say that this is a bad thing, okay? From our, let's call it, and that's clear. We gotta say, when you say good and bad, you always gotta say from what perspective? From Christian perspective, from our morals, okay? Free riding and social loafing is definitely a bad thing. And it's definitely characteristic of Western societies. Western societies and Western people in Western culture, they like free riding. If you give them a chance, they'll always try to free ride. Well, not in most Asian cultures. Not with the Japanese. The Japanese, when they're on a team, they will be working, and they'll be working conscientiously. They'll be working hard, okay? Now, in the West, they'll be working hard only if there is a control mechanism and only if there is a reward system, okay? But in the East and in Japan, they'll just work for the benefit of the good, for the benefit of the team. Here's another example. I talked with some of the Chinese professors over here. You probably know, maybe you study with them. And they are very hard working. And I asked them, well, but it doesn't really matter whether you work twice more or twice less. I mean, they pay you so little. What's the motive? I mean, you can just free ride, okay? You don't have to work very hard, okay? You don't have to, but they try to contribute their best, okay? They try to do the best job possible, even though there is no reward. They do it for their country, okay? They do it for what's called the greater good, okay? So, Asian people are a lot of times more oriented towards the greater good and willing to sacrifice. Western people don't care too much about it, and they're not willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice only when they're going to get a benefit back from it, okay? Only when they're going to get some sort of a reward. And that's a fundamental difference between Eastern cultures and Western cultures. And the last one is cohesiveness. And cohesiveness, that's not a difference between culture, is a problem with global teams. With a global team, it is difficult to achieve team cohesiveness. Very, very difficult to achieve cohesiveness. I already mentioned, let me finish. You get communication problems, which are a lot more difficult in global teams. Managing conflict is a lot more difficult in a global team. Okay? And the last section is very simple. Teams are not always the answer. They're not always the solution. You form a team when the team is really necessary. You form a team when a team can do a better job than a single person. Very often in business and very often in life, you don't need a team. You don't have to form a team. Right? Very often in business and in life, one person will do a better job. Sometimes when you need a team, this means that you don't have good and competent people who can do the job alone. That's what it means. So you should not. Now, the Western world and the Western business is very, very hooked on the idea, and for everything they're trying to make and create teams. And the answer is, you don't really need it. We have to think, do we really need a team? And is a team a solution or not a solution? And oftentimes, it is simply not a solution, okay? So, that should be it. And that finishes the chapter 4.